Okay, good evening, everyone. So this is uh, my second class for the American literature in the 19th century, and the topic is Self-Reliance by Ralph Waldo Emerson. Now, I'll do a quick explanation for this article. It's on page number 208. 208, Self-Reliance by Ralph Waldo Emerson. Okay, if you go to page 208, I will read, this article and try to explain it in detail. But my reading will be dependent on two things, on the questions in the back, and also I'll read through the article and comment on certain things. Now, if you go to the questions in the back, the first question is, what, according to the third sentence in a nonconformist, is the only sacred thing? Okay, let's read it quickly, the first paragraph on page number 208, and look at the third sentence. Whoso would be a man must be a nonconformist. Who he who would gather immortal bombs must not be hindered by the name of goodness, but must explore if it be goodness. And now this is the third sentence. Nothing is at last sacred but the integrity of your own mind. So again, nothing is at last sacred but the integrity of your mind. Now, what does that sentence mean? Nothing is at last sacred but the integrity of your mind. If you remember in the previous discussion of Emerson's Maxims on page 205, if you go to the third line of Maxims of Emerson, in the third line he said, "Nothing is at last sacred but the integrity of your mind." It's the same line here. It's taken from the same, article, Self-Reliance. Now, as I explained it before, that your mind is sacred, and sacred means that it is religious. That's something that has to do with something that is religious and something that is important. Okay. Now let me look at the dictionary here. What sacred mean? Sacred, in the dictionary means uh, connected with God or dedicated to a religious purpose or so deserving veneration. And it means also religious rather than secular, and also it means embodying laws or doctrines of religion. Now, I think Emerson here means by sacred is that it is very important, it's very holy, it's very venerated thing to use your mind. The most holy and the most religious thing to do is to use your mind. So your mind has to be, you know, uh, like you should have the integrity of your mind, and this is the most sacred thing. Okay, so the second thing, what advice does Emerson give to the angry bigot? Okay, so here we have a bigot, and Emerson is giving us kind of advice to that person. But before we go to that, or before we talk about the bigot, now we have to look at the word nonconformist. What does the word nonconformist mean here? Nonconformist. Okay. Now I look up the word in the dictionary, and here it means a member of Protestant church which dissent from the established Church of England. So it means that a person who breaks away from the Church of England. And also it means a person who does not conform to prevailing ideas or practices in the behavior or views. So it means that nonconformist is that you don't follow the teachings or the principles of your society or of your religion. You simply revolt against, religion and society. And so we have an explanation for this down there. So line number 4 in the first paragraph, I would read now. Absolve you to yourself, and you shall have the suffrage of the world. I remember an answer which when quite young I was prompted to make to a valued adviser who was wont to importune me with the dear old doctrines of the church. On my saying, what have I to do with the sacredness of tradition, if I live wholly from within? So and this is very important. Now Emerson says here, "What have I to do with the sacredness of traditions? If I live wholly with the sacredness, if I live, sorry, if I live wholly from within." So here we have two things. We have the sacredness of tradition, and we have also to live wholly from within. The sacredness of tradition means that the traditions that we take from religion, from society, from all these people around us, now people consider it as sacred or as religious or as very important. But Emerson's saying here is that I don't care about the sacredness of tradition. I don't care about tradition itself. I care about myself. And that's why he said, if I live wholly from within, so he lived within himself. He believes in himself. He believes in his ability to think. And that's why we go back to the integrity of the mind, or the sacred integrity of the mind, which is more important than the sacredness of tradition. Okay, so and then let's go to the line that I think the second question, which talks about what advice does Emerson give to the angry bigot. Now, if you go to the last to the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, to the last 7 lines at the bottom of the page, you see that line that starts with "if an angry bigot." If an angry bigot. Okay, so I'll read this line and I'll explain this. If an angry bigot assumes this bountiful cause of abolition and comes to me with his last news from Barbados, why should I not say to him, "Go live thy infant"? Now, before we start reading what Emerson said to that bigot, now what does bigot mean? What does bigot mean? Or bigotry? Okay, bigot here means a person who is intolerant towards those holding different opinions. So simply, we have a person who is intolerant towards those holding different opinions. Simply, it means that a person who does not agree with what you have, they don't agree with your opinions. These people who do not accept you and accept your beliefs or opinions are called bigots. They are called bigots. Now, this is the advice that Emerson gives to this bigot, okay, or any bigot. Now, he said that this bigot, or let me read the line from the beginning. If any angry bigot assumes this bountiful cause of abolition and comes to me with his last news from Barbados, why should I not say to him? And here, this is the advice for the bigot: go love thy infant. Go love thy infant. So here it means two things: go and love yourself, or it means go and love your children, thy infant, your children. Um, um, and be good natured and modest. So again, you have to be of sorry, I have my phone ringing. Sorry for that, and it's getting disconnected. Okay, now it's going back. Sorry. So he keeps calling me, and I try to interrupt him 3 times. Hopefully, he will understand. Modest, have that grace, and never varnish your hard, uncharitable ambition with this incredible tenderness factful, 1,000 miles off. So he's saying here that never varnish your hard, uncharitable ambition with this incredible tenderness for with this incredible tenderness for black folk 1,000 miles off. So simply he said that stay at home, love yourself, love the things around you, love the nature around you, and care about you and your home, the surroundings, the area that surrounds you, and don't care about other people, thousands of miles ago. So that's his advice. I mean, this is like a very questionable thing for Emerson, but this is what he means by, think of yourself, love thyself, love yourself, and don't think of other people who live thousands of miles away. Okay, so going to the third question, which is, against what institution does Emerson rebel according to the last sentence of a nonconformist. So if you go to this section, which is titled a nonconformist, if you go to the last sentence, which is on the right side of the page, the last sentence starts with, there is a class of persons to whom, you see that? Okay, so there is a class of persons to whom by all spiritual affinity I am bought and sold. For them I will go to prison if I need be. But your miscellaneous popular charities, the education at college of fools, the buildings of meeting house, to the vain end to which many now stand, alms to sots, and the thousand-fold relief societies, I thought confess. Though I confess, with shame I sometimes succumb and give the dollar. It is a weak dollar, which by and by I shall have the manhood to withhold. So simply here, he refers to the institution or simply the government. He refers to the government and society. Now, Emerson, as I said before, believes that society is corrupt. And you as an individual, you have to revolt against society. You have to be a nonconformist. You have to reject society and accept yourself as a person. So what is important is you as an individual and not the society as a group. So I think that's the, and then he said, he conclude, I shall have the manhood to withhold. So simply it is the individual and not the society that he want us to take into account. Uh, why do educated men travel according to the first sentence of traveling? So if you go to the second part, which is traveling, look at the first sentence. It is for want of self-culture that the superstition of traveling, whose idol are Italy, England, Egypt, retains its fascination for all educated Americans. So simply Emerson says that people, want to get self-culture, or the want of self-culture, that when once you go to Europe, it means that you will get the culture of these countries, these foreign countries. But what Emerson believes is that you as people should not travel for self-culture. You have to believe in your culture. Like, this is called self-reliance. So you have to depend on yourself, and you have to depend on the country that you live in, and you have to break away from Europe. Okay, so again, the first thing that we mean by self-reliance is to rely on yourself and your country and what your country has, not what Europe has. Why we care about, Italy, England, or Egypt if we have places here in the United States? Care about California, care about, New York, care about Florida. So you have different places that you have to uh, get culture from, and not to go outside and self, and you get your self culture. So that's the first question, the answer for the first question. Now the second question is, he said, why does Emerson consider valid reason for traveling? Yeah, okay, so he simply, the question is, why and when should educated people, cultivated people means educated people, when should educated people visit Europe? He said here, on the same paragraph, the first paragraph, they who made England, Italy, or Greece venerable in the imagination did so by sticking fast where they were, like an X of sticking fast where they were, like an eggs of the earth. In many hours, we feel that duty is our place. And here, look, duty is our place. It means that we have to focus on our country. We have to focus on our place, the United States of America. And here he said, the soul is no traveler. The soul is no traveler. So you should stay at home. The wise man, and here the cultivated man, see, the wise man stays at home. And when his necessities, his duties, on any occasion call him from his house or into foreign lands, he is at home still, and shall make men sensible by the expression of his countenance that he goes, the missionary of wisdom and virtue, and visits cities and men like a sovereign, not like an interloper or valet. So here means by by this is that you, as a wise man or as a cultivated man, you should visit country for necessities and for duties. If you have necessities or duties, then you go to Europe. But if visiting Europe is not necessary or is not a duty, then you should not do it. Okay. And if you do it, you have to do it. Look at the last two lines of this paragraph. You have to do it. Visit cities and men like a sovereign, not like an interloper or a valet. It means that you have to have your own sovereignty. Sovereign means, you have your own integrity, you have your own independence, and that's what he means by sovereignty. Okay. Why does Emerson consider? Okay, we read this question. The next question: in reliance on property, how should men, as represented by the cultivated men, regard property? How are political parties and reformers inferior to the individual? So first of all, here he wants how should men, as represented by the cultivated man, regard poetry. Now, if you go to so it's question number 6. So question number 6, here we go to property, right? Okay, so I will leave question number 6 before, because there are some points that I want to mention here. Go to the paragraph that talks about traveling. The last paragraph here, I want to read it. Okay. Traveling is a fool's paradise. Traveling is a fool's paradise. Our first journeys discovered to us in the indifference of places. At home I dream that at Naples, at Rome, and I can be intoxicated with beauty and lose my sadness. I pack my trunk, embrace my friends, embark on the sea, and at last wake up in Naples, and there beside me is the stern fact, the sad self, unrelenting, identical, that I fled from. I seek the Vatican and the palaces, and I affect to be intoxicated with sights and suggestions. But I'm not intoxicated. My giants goes with me whenever I go. Here he talks. There are two things that you have to emphasize here. First of all, traveling is a fool's paradise. It means that you, as a wise man, or man here mean men and women, you as a wise man should not consider traveling as the most important thing. Forget traveling. Now, if you forget traveling, in this case, you will depend on imagination. So you will have your imagination and dreams. At home, you'll be able to imagine and dream. So you will imagine yourself being at Naples or at Rome or at any place that you want. So in this case, if you stay in the United States of America, or if you stay in your home, in your place, you have the ability to imagine. And this is a creative thing that you have to. So this is very important. Okay, so the last question, which is reliance on property. Now, property is very important. Remember that when we talk about property, we talk about things that you own, like when you own something. And let me read the first paragraph, and it's on page 209. Reliance on property. And so the reliance on property, including the reliance on governments, which protect it, is the want of self-reliance. Men have looked away from themselves and at the things so long that they have come to esteem the religious, the learned, the civil institutions as guard of property, and they deprecate assault on these because they feel them to be assault on property. They measure their esteem of each other by what each has, and not by what each is. So simply here, he's talking about properties and how because properties are for the government, and because like this is my house. Okay, now I own this house, but who proves that this house is mine? It's through the government. So in this case, you are obliged, you are connected, you are controlled by the government. So he said that once you have a property, you rely on the government, and he does not want you to rely on the government. That's the first thing. So you have to be independent and self-reliant by not depending on the properties or the things that are offered by the government. Okay. Now, how should question number 6, in reliance on property, how should men, as represented by the cultivated man, regard property, and how are political parties on reformers inferior to the individual? Look at page number, okay, yeah, uh, it's page number 209 here. Page 209 on the right side, the first line that starts with, but a cultivated man becomes ashamed of his property. But a cultivated man becomes ashamed of his property out of new respect for his nature. Especially he hates what he has if he see that it is accidental, came to him by inheritance or a gift or a crime. Then he feels that it is not having. So simply here he's talking about, you know, if your property is gained by effort, by hard work, then this is good property. But if it is gained through inheritance or through gift, then that will make you feel bad about it. So what makes you feel that this is your property and enjoy having this property is when you have it by hard work, not by inheritance or by gifts. And then he continues, he said, then he feels that it is not having, it does not belong to him, no, has no roots in him, and merely lies there because no revolution or no rubber takes it away. But that which a man is, and this is very important, but that which a man is does always by necessity acquire, and what the man acquire is a living property, which does not wait the beck of rulers or mobs or revolution or fire or storm or bankruptcies, but perpetually renews itself whenever the man breathes. And here, this is very important, is that when you have or acquire property through hard work and through necessity, this what makes the property living. So if we want to say that this is a living property, the living property is something that you acquire by necessity, and the dead property is the property that you gain by gift or by inheritance. All right, so if you go to the next page here, the last 3 lines or 4 lines. Not so, O friends, will the God deign to enter and inhabit you, but by method precisely the reverse. It is only as a man puts off all foreign support and stand alone that I seek him to be strong and to prevail. This is very important, and underline this line. You have to underline it. It is only as a man puts off all foreign support. It means that you don't care about foreign support. You put foreign support aside and stand alone. And this is the individual. Stand alone, that I see man to be strong and to prevail. So the only way to be strong and to prevail is by standing alone, not by depending on foreign support. Forget the foreign support, depend on yourself, and you will be good. Okay, the next question, which is analyzing, Emerson uses a form of synecdoche in referring to the tendency to capitulate the badges and names, and what do the badges represent, and what points does he make about human behavior. Now, capitulate to badges here, it is mentioned on page 208. If you go to 208, and almost after the middle of the paragraph, the line starts with, I am ashamed. Okay, he said, I am ashamed to think how easily we capitulate to badges and names, to large societies and dead institutions. Now, what do these badges refer to? Badges here I think it refers to the ranks in society, because we as societies are ranked according to our social status. Rich, poor, upper class, middle class, lower class. And we have these badges names, like, for example, a professor, a mister, a doctor, all these just badges, names, and numbers. And they are not important because now we value you because of your badges, not because of your value itself. So these badges refer to how we looked as names and objects and numbers rather than as human beings. Okay, so simply badges represent, I think they represent ranks in society. The last Question: at the end of traveling, Emerson states that my giant goes with me whenever wherever I go. What or who is the giant, and why is it ever present? I think here the giant here refers to imagination and self-reliance too. So, because in order to be self-reliant, you have to imagine. So, the giant on page 209, the last line of the paragraph on the left side, my giant goes with me whenever I go. This refers to imagination and self-reliance. This is the giant that you have. It's your imagination and your self-reliance on yourself that make you a human being, not because of society or because of property or because of something that you own or because of a travel that you embark to Europe. These do not make you an important individual. What makes you an important individual is imagination, self-reliance, and staying at home. I think this is enough for today. I hope this explanation will help clarify some of the points. Please watch this video again and again and try to uh, understand the article self-reliance. Now, for this week, I will not give you homework. So just you need to watch this class and do the readings, and that's all you need to do. I just want to make you relax and have free time this week because I gave you many homeworks in the last week. So please have fun and enjoy.